Okay, so I want to go over quiz number 8 with you. And the first group of problems are just simplifying. So remember, PEMDAS is something you always want to follow. So first one, got to do the parenthesis first. 7 plus negative 3 is 4. And then this means the opposite of 4, which is just negative 4. B, so PEMDAS says the P in PEMDAS, and I'm going to write this. The P stands for grouping symbol. So the bracket would be considered a grouping symbol. Whenever you have two negatives side by side like this, it's going to make a positive. Or you can think of the negative as meaning the opposite of negative 5. So that whole bracket goes to 5. So 6 plus 5 is 11. Okay, the absolute value is a grouping symbol, so that's the P in PEMDAS. This is 2. Absolute value of 11 is still 11. So you get 13. Okay, now if I ignore this negative on the outside, I have a 4. The absolute value goes to 4. But the negative on the outside is still there. That means the opposite of 4. Plus 9 is 5. Okay, now here be careful. If you went 8 minus 4 first, you violated PEMDAS. That means you subtracted before the P, and the P says, got to do this first. So 4, then rewrite everything. I still can't do the 8 minus 4 because this is multiplication. That comes before the subtraction. So, or you could also have a keep change there. But multiplication is still going to be before addition. So I have to do 8 plus negative 16, and that's going to be a negative 8. Okay, now for F, you can't do the subtraction before the division, so it's going to be 2, then the 10 minus 2, which is 8, or you could do 10 plus negative 2. G, you can't do the 4 plus 5 first. You have to multiply first. So it's 4 plus 10 over 7. So that's going to be 14/7, which equals 2. H, the numerator is 3 times 9. In the denominator, you have to multiply the 3 times 4. So you're going to get 15 minus 12. Then that's 27 divided by 3. So the answer is 9. Okay, and I, you really have to watch PEMDAS because you have no grouping symbols at all to direct you. So PEMDAS says I need to do, there's no PE, no E. I have to multiply or divide first. But the reason I wrote them stacked is because you do whichever of these you come to first, left to right. So as I'm going left to right, the first thing I hit is the multiplication. So 28. Now I'm going to rewrite everything else. 3 plus. And then you could keep, if you did a keep change here, then everything is addition, and you could add in any order. But let's say we were to leave the minus. It's not addition before subtraction. You have to do whichever comes first as you go left to right. So as I'm moving left to right, I come to the subtraction first. So that becomes a 9 plus 28 plus 6. And then at this point, you can add in any order. So this is going to be 34. And then 9 plus 34 is going to be 43. Okay. So 2, you got to plug in. X is 3, Z is 4, and then it's 3 plus 1 on the bottom. So I get 12 plus 4 over 4, which is going to be 16/4, which is 4. 16 divided by 4. Don't leave it like this. You want to take it all the way to 4. Okay, here we have 5. 6 minus 3, that's going to equal 5 times 3, which is 15. So that's pretty easy. All right, translations. Quotient means division, and you got to keep the order. So P divided by 4 is 10, or you could say P divided by 4 is 10. Difference means subtract, and you got to keep this order. 8 minus x equals 20. Next one, 6 more than is plus. So 6 plus a number, n, is equals 11. 5 times a number is 4. 5n equals 4. Be careful of less than. Remember that less than means you're taking 7 away from the x. So when I see less than, 7 less than means I'm taking 7 away from something. In this case, it's x. Is 12 equals 12. Okay. The sum of 15 and y means add. 15 plus y equals 27. G, 6 more than, which is plus. 6 plus the product of 10 and p means 10p is 45 equals 45. And the last one, twice the sum of 3 and m. So that's my sum. I want twice this sum. 3 and m equals 100. Okay, backside, we have, all right, we just have to define the unknowns and write an equation. So we've got Sam's games and Tony's, or wins, really. I probably should say Sam's wins. Wins. Okay, so find the one that's smaller. It says Sam won 8 more than Tony. So Tony is the variable, and Sam is 8 more than Tony. They played 30 games in all. That's a total. So this is a total type problem. And if it's a total problem, it just means these two guys added together equals 30. So you could either do 8 plus t equals 30, right? These are going to get added. Or you could simplify calling it 8 plus 2t equals 30. Then number 5, it says an oil painting is 16 years older than a watercolor by the same artist. The oil painting is also 3 times older than the watercolor. So I'll just say oil age and watercolor age. Okay, the oil, now it doesn't give me a total at all. So that means this is a translate problem. And on this kind of problem, just take the first sentence and use it to define your unknowns. So the watercolor is the younger one, the smaller one. So that's W. And the oil painting is 16 older than or more than W. All right, now to get your equation, this is the trickier part. Because it's a translate problem, you have to translate the second sentence. You could always do it the opposite. You could always use the second one to do the unknowns and translate the first one. But just to make things simple, I always take the first one and do the unknown. Now translating, it says the oil painting. Remember, left to right, don't just combine stuff together. The oil painting means 16 plus W. Next word is equals. 3 times older than the watercolor. That means 3 times the watercolor. There's my equation. Number 6. I'm going to go ahead and fill out the rest of this rectangle. So the perimeter is all the sides added together. So you could go W plus W plus W plus 5 plus W plus 5, but that's a lot of work. Or I could just add all the W's, 1, 2, 3, 4, because they're all added. 4W plus, and the 5s will add to make 10. Area being length times width, that means you're multiplying just the length and the width together. So that will look like W times W plus 5, but it's the W plus 5 that has to be in the parenthesis. So that is my area. Okay, solving absolute value equations. Now, I'm looking carefully at this right side because I can never get a negative coming out of an absolute value. That's going to make this a no solution. Number 8, though, 6 is positive, so that means there's no problem with this equation. Step 1, take off the absolute value. Step 2, put a plus minus on the other side. Those are your 2 answers. 6 and negative 6 both work. Okay, with this guy, keep change first. Step 1, take off the absolute value. X plus negative 6.2 is 1.4. Step 2, you're going to branch. There's a positive side and a negative side. Oops, oh my gosh, I forgot the plus minus. So anyway, when you first take off the absolute value, x plus negative 6.2, you're supposed to put the plus minus on the other side right away, just like we did here. I just completely forgot to do that. Now the left branch is going to be x plus negative 6.2. Do not change anything on this side. Equals the positive 1.4. This is the number that will change on both sides. X plus negative 6.2. Now I'm equaling the negative 1.4. Solving it, I have to add the opposite sign number, but I got to do this exact same thing to the other side of the equal sign. That makes 0. X, right, bring that down. I'm adding, so that's going to be 7.6 is the first solution. I also have to add a positive 6.2 here. Doing the same thing on the other side of the equation, that's going to add to 0. X equals, now I'm adding two different signs here with my numbers. I can't have, when you have different signs, you want to subtract. So I'm going to ignore this and just rewrite it normally, so the bigger number is on top, subtract the smaller number like that. So you can't put a 2 here. You have to go this way, which means I'm going to borrow. So I get a 4.8. Then I'm going to check the signs. The bigger number is positive, so it's a positive 4.8. And then extra credit. Step 1, take off the absolute value. Put a plus minus on the other side. See, it's the same process every time. Then it's going to branch. Plus, negative. X plus 8.2 equals positive 1.4. X plus 8.2 equals the negative 1.4. Okay, this time to cancel 8.2, I have to add the opposite sign number. The opposite sign number. X equals, I'm adding two different signs, so again, I'm going to rewrite it so the bigger number's on the top and subtract like normal. Got to borrow. Okay, I get 6.8, but the bigger number is negative, so it's negative 6.8 for the first solution. I also have to add a negative 8.2 here, negative 8.2 here. X equals, I'm adding two different negatives, so basically I just add and keep the sign. So 6, 9, negative 9.6. Okay, one thing to note, if you didn't keep change here and you left it minus, what happens is if you leave it minus, people forget that that means this guy's negative. The temptation is to make this negative, and then your signs are all going to be off. So it's really important to keep change here.